Okay. Let's.
Hello, my lovely people. Today is an unusual day. We have got some crazy stuff going on in the world, good, bad, and indifferent, and a lot of really stuff. We're going to break it all down today, and we'll talk about how last week we spoke about the breakout being confirmed. That was good news. We'll look at some great charts with CTO Larson. We'll look at some money flows, money supplies, M2s, and calculation methods with Marty, and talk about how Monero has shot up 50% and why, and so much more. But the real story today is basically, sadly, about outages. Mando is in a country that has a electricity outage right now. We have 4 major countries that I know of that have no power, no communications, no traffic lights, no airlines, no trains running. Belgium, Spain, Portugal, France, as far as I know. I could be wrong on those countries. I'm not there. Oh, T&D Tesla's here. Whoa-ho. So we have part of Europe is alive, and Team Liverpool is here too. So let's get into it. How are you this morning, CTO?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Charts are looking great. I'm very happy and very optimistic from here.
Good. And Marty Party, you got your tea on the way. We hope to have a star guest to replace Mando later today. She's become somewhat of the legend.
Yeah, my mother will show up. Crypto Mom will be in the house bringing me tea. It's early for me here. I'm great. Just
there she is.
Eyes on the
hey, Mom.
off. I'm really sorry about Europe. There she is. Hey, Mom.
Hello.
Yeah, the European thing is terrible. I'm from South Africa. I'm used to it. Rolling blackouts is part of our lives. This is the sign. This is the signal. This is when the sort of systemic issues are showing their head. What could it be? What brought the power down? Let's find out. But that's going on right now. Terrible thing. Anyway.
In fact,
everything's good for Bitcoin. It's good for Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin loves a crisis, as we always say as well. So let's talk about the agenda real quick. We've got a lot of ground to cover. And again, thank everybody in the audience for being here. Thank you to the mods in the chat. And everybody, we're on everybody's channel. Links, if you're watching my channel, for CTO, etc., are down below. Marty as well, Mando as well, and his newsletter and everything else. We'll talk about the breakout confirmation. There's a new model as well called the Bitcoin Quintile model, which is worth having a quick look at. We are day 888 of the Bitcoin bull market. And for those of you who understand feng shui, whatever it's called, that's a good luck number. The question is, how long will it continue? So we'll try to dig into that too. And then treasuries are it. You've heard me talk about treasuries for years now. It's kind of boring, but literally treasuries are on fire. Absolutely fire. Saylor bought another $1.42 billion worth of Bitcoin. He is stacking more than is being produced. He has basically bought over the last, I think, 8 months, the next 2 years of supply, which is kind of interesting. ETFs are also back. Vanguard, who used to vanguard their customers from Bitcoin, are biting the bullet. They bought a huge bag of MicroStrategy, big allocation, one of their funds. And then we'll look at some money. We'll look at some stablecoin action. We'll look at some hacks and the impact on Monero. We'll look at the foreign banks moving to gold and therefore Bitcoin eventually, hopefully one day. And we'll talk a bit about electricity and how it's a massive bottleneck and security risk for AI too. Everything is related to AI. So let's get into the very first story. Why don't we start with a chart from CTO, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
We'll talk about where we came from over the last week, because we did say bottom confirmed, breakout incoming, and there we had it.
Exactly. This was the last Monday show. It was this candle here. And we were uncharacteristically bullish here. And what happened? The next day, Tuesday, boom, price shot up. And we came back into this range that I've been talking about all the way since we fell out of it in late February. So this is, of course, fantastic news. We're back in the game. We're back in the range. And the price has not dumped back. So now we're here. What we need to do now is to work ourselves up to the top of the range. If you look on the right side here, that's the volume profile. So that's the price where a lot of volume has changed hands, because we were here for a long time. So there will be some resistance there. The next step now is to plow through this resistance. And you can see here at about 100K, it actually starts ebbing out. And then the final confirmation, the third step of this like 3-step process, getting back in the range, working through the volume and breaking out, is at about 106,100. And from there, it's price discovery and trending price action back, because we have been in ranging price action now for a quite long time, all the way since December last year. So the whole of 2025 so far, we've only seen ranging price action. Now we have a chance to complete this and get back to trending price action. And then, price discovery in Bitcoin, that can go fast and hard. And I'm very optimistic from here.
Yeah, that's a good intro. Marty, what do you see in your tea leaves today?
Yeah, I mean, my primary chart is the Wyckoff distribution. I've been paying close attention. It's been exactly perfect since the 4th of March when we came down. They're in another accumulation strategy. We're at phase D, which is a consolidation between 65 and 62,000, and we've been doing that perfectly flawlessly since April 22nd, and expected to have the markup around the beginning of May. That's 3 days time, 3 days time, 3 to 4 days time, puts us towards the end of the week. I believe at the end of the week, we'll see a move up, probably back to all-time high.
And that's also in line with global liquidity pump with the 108-day delay. In fact, it has risen a little bit ahead of schedule, more like 100 days. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in May. May could be a very good month because historically, April is the second best month of the year. It's positive for the month, I think up about 15%. Not a lot, considering how bad the beginning of the year was. But the real question is, how far do we go? How high can we go? And your chart, CTO, leads me into one of the topics. But the quick agenda for today, we'll be talking about day 888 of the Bitcoin bull market. We'll look right now next at the Bitcoin Quintile model and how that corresponds to TA, how high can we go, and a ton of other really, really good news. We'll look at money, supply, AI, and etc. This was last week. The breakout was confirmed, and then we had it. But I want to spend a second on this. I'm going to make this full screen so people can actually see it carefully. This is what you talked about, CTO. I call this escape velocity. How can Bitcoin make a second attempt to reach that escape velocity, which is a new all-time high, and enter a new speculative zone? And if you look at every prior cycle, there have been 1 or 2 failed attempts to break into this acceleration before the final run-up. And valuation-wise, we're now equivalent to where we were in November 2020. Who can remember that far back? Bitcoin was at 13K, 12.5K, thereabouts. And then we shot straight to 60K plus in a very short window of time. And there's a lot of similarity too, because back then there was restrictive monetary policy, there was recessionary fears, etc. And then the money printer came into full gear. Exactly what's happening right now. And barring some World War III scares, perhaps, there is some tension in India and Pakistan right now, which is accelerating, unfortunately. The question is, how far can we go? How high can we go next per this? This model here tells me that 120K is a lock. Again, it could be completely wrong. This is from Sina. Shout out to Sina. Great stuff. But this is I don't know if it's a version of the power model or something else, but I'm going to give this to you, CTO, first. What can you see from this chart? And where could we end up given the percentiles and given the history? I know we're still in the phase of diminished cycles, diminishing returns. Maybe no more 4-year cycle, given the treasuries. What do you see here?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great model, and it just shows that both the lows and the highs have been trending up. That's what it shows. And then it's like you say, it's been diminishing on the log scale. It's not diminishing. Yeah. If we drew this on the linear scale instead, it would look like this. It's like massively up. It just looks like, oh, it's slowing down. Yeah, but it's because it's going from, 30,000 to 300,000 instead of 3,000 to 30,000. So it's still more money. But yeah, so that's basically what it shows. And what we can also see here is that during the up phases, during the price discovery phases, the green arrows in the picture, it goes really fast. And of course, the psychology is that there's not so many people who want to sell them. now a lot of people have been scared. There's outflows from the ETFs. All the talk about the institutions, they will never sell. No, they panicked first. So they pull out the assets and then they panic buy back and so on and so forth. But when Bitcoin is in that price discovery mode and going in a parabola, there's very few people who want to sell their Bitcoin. So that's why price goes up hard and fast, because new money is coming in. No one is interested to sell, and price goes up seemingly crazy amounts each time. And those are the green arrows. And I don't see any reason why we can't enter another one of those phases.
Yeah, because the numbers get pretty scary. If you look at the quintiles, you know, if we just get to, say, a 60% quintile, and we're at 56.6 now, okay, that's pointing at 121K Bitcoin by October, which is, I think, very possible. It's very conservative. That means if this does hold, we'll get nowhere near the frothy levels of the past. Now, if we start going to 70, 80, 90 quintiles, the numbers get extraordinary, like $250,000. I'm going to kick this over to you, Marty. What do you see in this, and how does this correspond to Wyckoff?
Yeah, in my opinion, as you know, for years have been showing gold on the monthly Wyckoffs versus Bitcoin on the weekly Wyckoffs, and the uncanny resemblance. I think this just shows, once again, a double confirmation of the cup and handle target, which is $125,000. I think gold has hit its peak. Usually gold runs ahead. It's 35,000, pulls back now, 33.27. It's waiting for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will now catch up. This is the third vector. I believe it goes from the 94, 95 range to the 125 range next. And this is just a double confirmation once again of that happening, following global liquidity as usual.
Exactly. And we'll get to some global liquidity charts in a second too. Also, in fun news, we are day 888 of the Bitcoin bull market. So this is a historic representation of exactly what's happened. I'm going to blow this up full screen just so we can all zoom in. If you look at the gold line, that was the 2015 to 2018 zone, where it went really bonkers later in the cycle. And then 2018 to 2022 is kind of the blue. We are lagging both of those. There was a time actually when we got ahead of the blue cycle because of the ETFs. We actually went a little higher than we should have, earlier than expected. The question is, we believe there's still more upside. The question is how much. And a lot of people like Raoul Pal and others believe this cycle is more similar to the 2015-2018 cycle. The asset, I believe, is harder. It's scarcer. You know, Bitcoin's now a bona fide asset in the TradFi world, and money is coming in like we've never seen before. Which, if you had to pick one, CTO, gold or blue, roll the roulette table, which would you go with?
I try not to predict too much, especially on these channels, because sometimes people take unwise decision based on it. So, you know, it's hard to say, but I do think that the narrative of Bitcoin is stronger, much stronger than it's ever been. It's only 1 year ago. It's less than a year ago. It's like, what? Is it half a year ago? We 4 people sat here worrying that, you know, choke point might really cause some serious damage.
Yeah.
That scenario is completely gone now. That's not going to happen. Bitcoin is here to stay. Every financial institution is scrambling now to get a piece of the cake. Companies are trying to buy, and you know, banks are figuring out how to make some money on this. And yeah, the world has changed completely. Bitcoin is here to stay now. That scenario is completely gone.
We even had the Bitwise guys on stage saying that they believe the cycle has now ended. Like we're no longer in the 4-year cycle. I think there's a lot of things changing with that regard. Yeah, we think we're in either the last cycle or the second last cycle.
And that shows you, actually, it's a great point, Marty. It shows you how fragile the minds are. Even so-called analyst experts, they don't take the time to look under the hood, look at on-chain, do some back-of-the-napkin math calculations. You know Saylor is going to issue $21 billion, maybe $42 billion to buy as much Bitcoin as he can. If he is the only player, we're going higher. Can you imagine if there are other players like this? So, Marty, before we move on to the next chart, which ties in directly to that point, what do you think? Are we going to be gold or purple, or in between?
I think we're going to be gold.
Of a hyperbole. So that would take us per this and the multiples, that would take us north of $200,000. The other thing I didn't point out, we are day 888 of this bull cycle, but typically the end is at day 1080. So we have 200 days left, ballpark, give or take a couple of days. Does that jive with your thinking, Marty? Wyckoff, 200 days, gold cycle, gold line.
Wyckoff 200 gold's incredible move, liquidity, the fact that we're literally months away from Jerome Powell switching gears to quantitative easing, which I think triggers just a ridiculous rally in Bitcoin specifically. And obviously regulations. This is the week, guys. I mean, literally SPR, one of these states, I think if one of these states signs it into law, Greg Abbott, Arizona, Kathy Hobbs, one of these governors signs it, it's going to cause just a radical cascade. Bitcoin coming off reserves, never more. 28,000 Bitcoin last week removed off exchanges. Yep. Like we're going to supply crunch. I know we've been speaking about it for nearly a year. Everything is lining up. I like to see it as everything is lining up. And everything is playing into Bitcoin. In my opinion, it is the final hour.
Yeah,
we're going to see the markup. Yep.
Let's look at some things that tell us. You mentioned Bitwise a second ago, Marty. This is their chart of global corporate Bitcoin holdings. It's going to the moon. And now we have a firm called CEP with Jack Mollers and Howard Lutnick and Tether and all the major players. They want to be better than MicroStrategy, which means they need to find a way to buy 550,000 Bitcoin fast. There isn't enough. There's no way they can do that without. There's probably like 3 central banks in the world that can even achieve that if they wanted to buy it. And of course, the price would go straight to $1 million if that was the case. But it's crazy, the treasuries. And the other thing that's happening on chain too, which obviously Bitwise didn't look at, the long-term holder supply is spiking. And the good news about that is it makes the asset a little bit harder. People are kind of socking stuff away. It's going into the ETFs. It's not available in the market. That's why on-chain activity is terrible right now. And the ETFs roar back. Okay, this is the number of Bitcoin purchased. Okay, monster week last week. Biggest week since, I don't know, last year. And it's so funny how all of a sudden they come back so fast. It's kind of interesting, CTO, because the ETFs remind me a little bit of you. They sometimes they wait for confirmation before they jump back in. You know what I mean? Yeah. They wait for the bottom to be in, they wait for it to turn around a couple of weeks, and then they all go nuts. Would you see the same pattern here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense if they're sitting there. If they can deliver, say, 50% return or something to their stakeholders, or 80% return, it's fantastic. They don't need to deliver 120% because, you know, their clients, they're used to 5%, 8%, like 20% in the best year of history, the best thing they've ever experienced. If they can deliver 50%, wow, you know, they're heroes. What they cannot do is to go and lose 50%. So even if there's like a 10% chance of that happening and 90% for it to go up, they still can't take the 10%. They're going to get fired and they have no way back. So that's why they're playing very defensively. If things start going sideways, they pull out, they wait for confirmation that things are going up again, then they go back. They're fine to miss a little bit of the run. They don't need to catch the whole run. They just need to catch some of it, and they are heroes.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then we have, of course, Lord Saylor buys $1.42 billion. And just so you know, everybody, like the average DCA for a retail investor around the planet is between $50 and $200 a month to buy Bitcoin. You got one player here spending $1.42 billion, sometimes every week, or $2 billion, or $500 million. It's all over the place. But Saylor just snagged another 15,355 Bitcoin remember, only 450 are issued a day. And now they've increased their bag by 13.7% so far year to date and have over 550,000 Bitcoin. This is quite impressive. What do you think of their stacking strategy, Marty?
I think, I just did the update this morning, first thing out of bed, the top 5 holders. So Coinbase is down to 979,000, down 29,000 since the last time I checked last week.
But that's retail holdings too. It's not their personal bag. Make sure you explain
they only own roughly 55,000 Bitcoin. This is all their customer funds, but they have the keys to that amount of Bitcoin. Binance 640,000 behind. They're down 3,700, and then you get Wall Street, BlackRock up to 582,000. That's only 60,000 behind Binance, guys. Remember what I told you. When BlackRock controls more than Binance, I believe we're going to see a shift in the index price of Bitcoin, moving from Binance perpetuals to CME index. And that to me is a landmark moment. I'll watch it carefully. Then we have MicroStrategy that are now 553, only 30,000 behind BlackRock, which is astounding. So there's your arms race. And then I think the Jack Mallers move, bringing in Tether's supply. I mean, Tether had 349,000 coming into 5th place. So that arms race is tightening up. There's a lot going on there we're not seeing. I think this Malice thing brings in another dimension. Institutions are buying. They're stacking more than ever. And retail is getting shaken out by the Wyckoff. They're getting shaken out by the manipulation. I mean, the same old strategies. I just wish they would understand that. Stop selling your Bitcoin. Anyway.
In fact, interesting question here, because this is concerning still for people. We spoke a lot so far this year about the tariff tensions and the tariff tantrums. Great White Hype wants to know anything on the trade war. So it's been interesting to see this whole negotiations tactic. It's worked with some nations. It's proving harder to work with China. China was the target to get them to bend. And the US needs China. The US is not going to make 50-cent plastic items or $80 sneakers or stuff like that, but they will make other stuff with higher value. The idea is to create a balanced relationship, because if things continue as they were for the last 20, 25 years, there'd just be one GDP nation on the planet, and that's China. And this is what they're trying to pause. Any quick insight on the trade war right now, tariff wars? CT, I'll give this to you first. Any updates, any breakthroughs, any resolutions?
I just feel that it has to be resolved because, as you point out, it would be a huge loss if we maybe for a moment switch to the stock market. Let me bring that up for a moment. So the stock market has not recovered, unlike Bitcoin that has kind of broken back into its highest range, setting up for a breakout and price discovery. Stock market has not. It has recovered a lot this couple of weeks, but it has not structurally changed. And the reason is that the market is waiting for this, because if this fails, I think you summarized it so well. The US needs China, and if free trade can be there, both parties win. And one of the party here is the US stock market, is the companies in the US. If they cannot do this exchange with China, they will make less money. That's inevitable, at least short term. There is no way around that. So then they will earn less. And then the stock valuation, which is in a way, it's like the net present value of future cash flows or something like that, whatever valuation model, is less. So then the stock market is less. And that's not good. That's not what we want. And for sure, Trump doesn't want that either. There's no one who wants that. So I hope it gets resolved. I think they're trying to solve it. And I'm an optimist. I think reason will prevail. Trade is good in the end. So I think they're going to solve it. And then I think the US stock market will rebound. If it doesn't, if this fails, they clash and this gets cemented and the world changes from this point onwards. There isn't any free trade with China anymore. Okay, then this chart, it's going to dump another 20%.
Okay,
From the bottom, perhaps.
Yeah, we got some good news as well regarding the electric outage in Europe. So far that I know of, Spain is back and Belgium is back. Not sure about Portugal yet or any other lands, but we'll keep you updated as well. Maybe Manda will join if he gets his power
I think along the Indian lines, what's quite interesting, if you remember, India came to the table first and renegotiated literally the closest to creating a new trade deal. I think India is making a play here and taking away some of the dependence on China, especially in the interim before Chinese deal is made. We saw a lot of praise of India from Trump, and as we know, India is potentially the next superpower. So that's quite interesting. Another thing that I saw regarding trade is Scott Bessent in his keynote remark last week kind of slipped that Trump is trying to reconstruct the IMF and the World Bank, which makes a lot of sense, a lot of context around what's happening right now. We all know this is about global reserve currency status, and that was quite interesting. But I think this goes back to, the original continuation of the war and allies. This is sort of the U.S. Once again finding its allies. Are you guys with me or not? And China on the other side, and it's playing out. This is sort of a third world war, like I said, a monetary war, and it's continuing. It's ongoing. China is saying we haven't received calls. US is saying calls are going well. There's a little bit of deception there. We're not quite sure. Messaging is very sparse and strange, but it's all meant to create uncertainty in the markets, I believe. Uncertainty. And what I did see, though, is Chinese news saying that China is not in as good shape as people think. And these tariffs have already caused Chinese factories to be backlogged.
They've stopped. The ships are empty. The factories have stopped working. People are being laid off. The people are really suffering in China right now. And if you look at some of the Chinese videos that are coming out from people on the ground there, it's horrifying. It's worse than C-19, if you can imagine that. And that was pretty horrifying. There is some very interesting geopolitical stuff, too, that also impacts Bitcoin. We have Pakistan going full hog now into Bitcoin. It is, I can't remember the term, halal or something. It's now approved by the religion there. So Pakistan wanted, but also tensions between Pakistan and India are happening all at the same time because of there was an attack on Hindus in Kashmir while Vance was there in the US, and tensions are really flaring up. And at the same time, you have Apple basically saying, okay, we're not going to do any more manufacturing of iPhones in China. We're going to move it all to India. So I don't know if Foxconn is moving to India or whatever else. I mean, and then I shared in a video about 10 days ago that the only way the US can beat China is if they partner closer with India. And we're seeing signs behind the scenes of like Elon Musk setting up in India and everything else. There's a lot of moving pieces happening behind the scenes, but India is first and foremost extremely hardworking and very capitalistic. And they will go where their, bread is buttered. And the other thing is, India hates China. So it's a natural relationship to go forward. If you look at the relative GDPs, you add up the GDP of the US and India, it's actually far higher than that of China right now, which is the only way they can make it happen. So they're the pieces on the chessboard. I don't know what's going to fall out, but it's very important for us to monitor. And I think either way, the power has to be taken away a little bit from the Chinese, I believe. I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of my take. Anyway, enough of the global geopolitics. Let's try to get back to some numbers. Let me see. I did say the NAV Premium.
There were some big developments last week, specifically the Fed adjusting their guidance on banks holding crypto. They went silently through the night.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stir. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course let's wrap up MicroStrategy. NAV Premium 1.86, which is really high and really good. Vanguard are biting the bullet. They were anti-Bitcoin in their funds. They don't allow customers to buy IBIT or the ETFs, at least as far as I know. I don't know if that's the same now, but they just decided to buy $200 million worth, a big allocation.
I didn't see that. 646,000 shares. Good Lord, I didn't see that one. Wow.
Yeah. So they have a fund called their Growth Index Fund, and they've just made a big allocation all over to Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. So, what do they say? At first, they fight you, and then eventually you win. And that's what Bitcoin actually does. So Vanguarded are no longer vanguarding people from Bitcoin, which is good. And then this is the big news. What you hinted at, Marty, too, is the banks are coming for Bitcoin. And CTO, you said this as well. That means they will be able to sell you Bitcoin. That means the banks are trying to find out a way of building the infrastructure so you can borrow against your Bitcoin because they want to hold your Bitcoin. Talk to us about this. This is massive news.
Me?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. Was it the end of last year or was it the year before that we ended the year and I said that I wanted one prediction? I think it was the year before that banks are going to completely change their tune on Bitcoin and go from that, it's very risky, guys, money laundering and so on. And they're going to change the tune and start saying that, finally, there are, compliant and secure ways to get exposure to this digital asset market. And we have some new products that we can offer for you. And that's exactly what's happening now. And it's amazing. I'm so happy to see this actually playing out because they will influence a lot of people. Citibank and all their who are actually financial advisors. We have to start saying that, we're not, there's not financial advice, we're education because we have no idea of the person on the other side. We cannot give any financial advice. We don't know the other person. But there are actual financial advisors who are having meetings with their client on a desk and they know their personal situation and they will start saying, guys, I think your Bitcoin exposure should be between 2 and 10% or between 2 and 20% and so on. They will start pushing their products now. And that's what's happening. And it's amazing to see. The tune is changing everywhere.
Yeah. As Friends and Family says, all roads leads to orange. But this is big. And Marty, any thoughts to add on banks coming to Bitcoin?
I think, I had Charles, we do a base takes with Charles Hoskinson now on Saturdays. We had 5,000 people on the space. He's just such a knowledgeable guy to talk to. He's a lovely guy to talk to. He has so much good insight. We went through the top 20 cryptos and he explained technically what everything is. It was really wonderful. But he's anti-bank. And it shows you the ethos of really where crypto is. Banks are the problem. And this whole effort is to get rid of banks. We went line by line why Citibank is no longer needed. But Citibank made a major announcement last week coming into crypto custody. Banks are going to try and play along, play ball, and be seen as digital asset friendly, probably by introducing stablecoin bank accounts and things like that and custodian bank crypto. So they will be net buyers. I believe that banks are going to be net buyers, more buying pressure for Bitcoin and specifically stablecoin networks. I think the next move we're going to see is that banks can become validators on the network, which is going to be an interesting new banking model for them. And Citi is out of the weeds, just jumped ahead and sort of gained competitive edge over this. But don't be surprised if we see a lot of banking headlines, banks getting involved. How can they contribute? Because they have the most to lose. Banks literally are the most at risk by stable coins. Like
exactly.
I say, the biggest fiat right now is stablecoin.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And then also, I can't remember the exact numbers, but there was more value transferred on Solana or crypto or something than on Visa. And the credit card companies, MasterCard, Visa, they see this. And they started, building feasibility studies within inside their operations heavy in 2023 and mostly in 2024. CTO, I know you're probably monitoring what the credit card companies are doing, but they know their future is in jeopardy. If everybody has crypto wallets on their iPhones, can you explain how screwed the credit card companies are?
Oh, yeah. I think everyone here should, at least once in your life, you should experience how it actually is. If you try to sell something on the internet, only then you will understand how bad the current payment system is. Even if you use the best tools available, you use the best service providers, and the clients have MasterCard and Visa, there is so much fees, guys. It costs 2%, 5%, up to 10% if you're sitting in some country in Europe and selling to New Zealand or something. It's enormous fees. We're talking 5 to 10%. And then if you're selling something digitally, maybe that's fine. But imagine you have a low margin business. Your whole margin is 10%, and it costs 10% to just collect the money. Your whole profit is gone. And then on the other side, you have crypto. You can send stablecoin over Solana or something, and it costs nothing. And it's not only the cost, it's the efficiency. The lack of, like with credit card, you have a massive risk as a vendor. There's something called chargeback. Like you can deliver the things. Maybe you ship out your painting that you've done or something. Then the guy or girl goes and does a chargeback saying, it was not as expected.
And then you lose the money, and then you got to pay fees on the chargeback.
They will take it back from you. You know, the card companies, the payment provider, you are lawless. You can send whatever. You know, I say I shipped the painting. Doesn't matter. We still take the money back from you. You're lawless. It's called chargeback. And
what happens to your painting? You never see it again.
Yeah, you never see it again. With crypto, there's no such thing. You sent it, full stop. Then no one's going to take it back from you. And all those things is... and it arrives in minutes. And, you know, someone sitting trying to buy, a genuine person trying to buy that painting, their bank is going to decline the credit card because that guy has never shopped from that country before. So you have to call the bank and say it's really me, and so on and so forth and so forth. It's so bad. And crypto is so much better.
CTO, it's even worse because if you have a settlement crypto, if I had to buy a copy with crypto, just directly wallet to wallet, that is instantly settled. There is no dispute. Like it's done. There's no need to comfort in the back office or reconciliate or settle or pay more fees to settle. It's settled. That deal is done.
It's done, because what Marty highlights here is that if you're selling something, you're like a painter or something. When the person pays, you don't get the money. There is the card company, the payment provider, they will sit on the money for a while, and then you get it. So again, if you're like cash flow constrained, that's not so good. Well, with crypto, you get it the same second. It's settled on the person sending the money. It arrives in the person, the seller, the same second. You have the money, you have the cash flow, and all these things. And we realize that here. Of course, Visa, MasterCard, all these payment providers, they're having workshops, they're doing tables. You know, our system, Stablecoin on Solana, and it's not looking good for them. It's not looking good. Every single row, they're worse. So for sure, they're looking, guys, how do we get in here? How do we take advantage?
I mean, a quick straw man. What CTO is, just to elevate what he's saying, a quick straw man, the amount of cost that costs for a vendor, a small business, to accept dollars right now through the banking system involves WorldPay, which provides the hardware for the point of sale device. That's roughly 3% of the transaction. Then there's Visa, MasterCard, that's another 3%. Then there's the back office. You need staff to do general ledger, accounting, QuickBooks. You take that salary and all that expenses. You're looking at roughly 6 to 7% it costs to accept fiat. If that 6 to 7% is replaced by, let's say, Solana and Sui with stablecoin, it's zero. That saving is pushed directly to the customer. So the customer now gets 6 to 7% less off the goods and services. Inflation comes down. These are tools we have with technology that Jerome Powell doesn't talk about in his fights against inflation. This is why I get so adamant. These are new technology innovations that can bring inflation down. This is where we should be. Banks are redundant. And that's the bottom line about this.
Absolutely. And so MasterCard and Visa, just to answer the question, James' original question. So what will happen is that they will enter. MasterCard, Visa, they will enter this game. They have no other choice. They will be here trying to promote these services and make use of it, and which is fantastic.
Yeah, good point. In fact, CTO, you also mentioned low cost. Well, Jupiter now has swaps at zero cost. It's now gasless. Marty, explain that to us, gasless swaps and how revolutionary that is.
Yeah, I mean, that was the next evolution. That's the new competitive edge. Remember, these swap networks and aggregators are no longer just in isolation. There's many on each network, and they're all competing. And they're all preparing for stablecoin economy, right? Where you'll be swapping between USDC and EuroC. It's a new foreign exchange world. I mean, stablecoin economy involves multiple stablecoins. Bank of America will have their own one. You know, the US government might have their own variant, like a CBDC. Or Elon Musk might make his own one. You might have an Amazon stablecoin. And the movement of stablecoins, the swapping, is going to involve like trillions of dollars of volume. And so these swap exchanges like Jupiter are preparing for that. This to me is just a retroactive preparation for what's coming. And that is just an absolute parabolic usage in volume of swapping on these exchanges and aggregators. And now zero fees, they will cover the fees. I mean, it just makes so much sense for the end consumer. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Exactly.
Yep.
And real.
I was chatting with Cynthia Loomis. She's a big believer in it. This is on the Senate floor. This is where the Congress is. The only thing standing between us being able to accept stablecoins as merchants is regulation. And regulation is held by the banking cartel. And they are the final chip to fall. So first they will panic. Citibank, oh, we're friendly, we're involved. But that's your signal, people. When banks like Charles Schwab, anti-crypto forever, now they're introducing crypto custody. When you start to see these banks open their arms to crypto, that's when you know the writing's on the wall. There you go.
And in fact, you mentioned stablecoins circulating USDC and Solana just broke $10 billion. And literally, I think it added 5 billion of that in the past 6 months or something. It's been on a rampage. Let's talk a little bit about some bad news as well. Well, Monero's on fire. Good news for the Monero holders, but this from Zach XBT. There was 3,520 Bitcoin worth $250 million was apparently stolen, and then immediately pumped and laundered via 6 different exchanges and swapped for XMR, causing the XMR price to spike 50%. CTO, can you walk us through this theft and what it means and the impact on Monero?
Yeah, this is tricky. So I have the chart up. What we can see here is that, from the bottom here, there has been increased interest in Monero. Then it kind of consolidated here for 2 years. And then beginning of this year, it broke out here again. And today is this big candle, which turned into a wick. See if we switch to daily wick, you can see it better here. Go down maybe to a few hours. So these scammers, these thieves, they swapped it to Monero and then presumably out again because the dump is happening right after. So
they moved straight out of it. Yeah, it went into Monero and out of Monero.
Yeah, so that's of course very unfortunate, and I'm not so, because I'm a big advocate for privacy as a whole. See if I can get the focus back here. And of course, it's very unfortunate when the criminals exploit it in this way. We have to catch the criminals while also enabling privacy. Is maybe the biggest flaw of crypto today. It is really that we don't have privacy today, and this is very unfortunate development. And it's I don't know what to say. It's shocking that people holding so much Bitcoin still fall for these kind of scams.
Yeah, it's a little bit of breaking news too. Thank you for all the interaction with the community here today. Where dogs thrive. My friends at Citibank stopped allowing him to use Coinbase. No more transfers. A lot of people move their fiat from their bank account, where they operate as a wage slave, to accumulate fiat so they can push it to Coinbase to buy crypto. That's just been cut off. And we've heard many stories about this, like Santander in the UK and many other banks for years and years apparently allegedly did this too. So, yeah, scary times out there from the so-called banking cartel, as Marty calls them. So thank you for that, Monero.
Yeah, for the audience, here's a little bit of detail. So Citigroup's actual report came out, and they put their bearish base and bull case for stablecoins by 2030. Okay, that's 4 years' time. They estimate that there will be, the bull case is $37 trillion of stablecoin volume by 2030. Wow. 37. Their bear case is 16 trillion. I thought it was 10 trillion, my bear case. And just a couple of notes here. What are the drivers that Citi forecast for stablecoin market size, right? Overseas cash switches to stablecoins. These are very important to understand. Cash switches to stablecoins. US banknotes switching to stablecoins. So legal tender in the US becoming stablecoin based. All clients, merchants, businesses accepting stablecoins. Bank balances switching to stablecoins. So your checking account, your savings account, you'll have an option to switch your Wells Fargo checking account to stablecoin on the app, on the web app. Term deposits, substitutions of global M0, foreign short bank balances. They're talking about an entire systemic banking switch from current central bank fiat money to stablecoin. People, this is massive. This is Citibank reporting this. That's a total of $37 trillion as their bull case.
Yeah.
So there you go. The numbers are huge, staggering.
And some other breaking news as well, because we do have some soccer fans in the audience. Shout out to Sean D. If this is true, does this mean Liverpool won? Anyway, while we're on this topic, we share it all here, all the stuff that's relevant. Let's talk about this for a second. US M2 is at an all-time high. US M2 peaked at an all-time high in 2022, 2023, if I'm not mistaken, due to C19, and then it retrenched. There was that tightening, but that tightening is now loosening fast. A lot of stealth liquidity has been flushed into the system because there are problems. And by the way, the reason we talk about this stuff is because this impacts Bitcoin directly. The more M2 in the system globally, the higher Bitcoin goes. Now, the dollar weakens, continues. Maybe there's a Dixie chart there somewhere, CTO, you can pull up for us. This is against a basket of currencies from the Financial Times. And nobody wants U.S. Treasuries. They're struggling to sell these Treasuries right now. And foreign banks are dumping U.S. Treasuries and they're moving to gold. We covered this last week in quite a bit of detail as to when the tipping point will happen and when the central banks will realize there's a better gold out there. But that's the quick money M2 stuff. CTO, did you have the Dixie? Still down. Good.
Yep. So it was a structural breakdown here a couple of weeks ago, and that hasn't climbed back. So this is a structural breakdown, little bit reaction last week, but still below.
Yeah. Craziness. So let's talk about a couple of other things while we wrap up in a few minutes here. One is this one, tax-free crypto havens. A couple of them had a big power outage today. That's why one of our members is not here. But this is kind of funny. One of the visions I have for the future is countries will find a way to entice high net worth individuals or crypto holders to their land, so that the land will have wealthier people in it that they don't need to support the system, but they can help support the people on the ground in these countries. Names like Monaco, Portugal, Singapore, El Salvador, Georgia, Bermuda, Malta. I actually have a couple of friends that have passports from Vanuatu. What else do we have there? I can't quite see the actual. Thailand and Malta all have very specific different crypto rules, tax-free stuff. What do you see out there, CTO, in terms of the impact of these tax-free nations at attracting crypto bag holders?
Oh yeah, this is huge. First thing I want to say is that don't take tax advice from YouTube people like us, because there's a lot of ifs and buts in each situation. But the thing is, this is massive. And I think that only a few countries have started realizing, because it's a massive business case. If you attract one of these persons, they move with their laptop, and even if they pay less or no tax on something, they pay a lot of tax on other stuff. So the business case to attract one of these people is enormous. And many of them have companies. They're going to generate jobs, and they're going to have a house, and I don't know, pay different fees and restaurants and cafes and things. It's a fantastic business case. The best people to attract, and most people haven't got it. Neither in the old world. They don't realize that they should try to retain these people, and most countries haven't gotten the business case how good it is to attract these people. So this is going to increase. There's massive differences between different countries. And in the old world, you couldn't move because you had a job. You were commuting your car to the office. You couldn't move. Now things are digital anyway. Then open your mind. Look at different countries. Make like a chart on the wall with different countries and different criteria, and figure out where you want to live. And you'll realize that probably there is a better place than where you are right now. And then move.
Yeah. What do you think, Marty?
I mean, the beauty of Bitcoin obviously is you can move anywhere you want and sell it for local currency. You're completely free. The taxation of it is always going to be an issue. And I think people will move to, first of all, let's understand that the rich have really been, they love Bitcoin. It gives them freedom. So there will be new millionaire havens, Singapore, etc. I think it'll move off of these small islands, which were sort of an intermediary zone. I think you're going to see Portugal, Singapore, Monaco, the wealthier nations start to attract the wealthy. The nation, where the wealthy like to play, the regulations will change, and you'll see taxes get lowered. They're incentivizing Bitcoin holders to move there. Absolutely, I think Singapore, Portugal, and Monaco all will benefit from this. El Salvador a little bit less so. Even though in Salvador, I believe if you have one Bitcoin in a wallet, you can get temporary residence, things like that. Those kinds of residence offers will change. But yes, I think overall, crypto tax haven status will be challenged. There's a couple of things that the last remaining challenges are to limit offshore unregulated futures trading zones and tax-free havens for crypto. And those jurisdictions will make the appropriate changes. And, there'll be a shakeup. So, yes, it's going to happen. I think for sure. And then you have positive news, like a lot of countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, embracing and saying no crypto tax. So it's a shakeup. The board is shaking up. Countries are realizing this is not just a joke. This is a real thing, and thus they have to attract more citizens. It's an opportunity to grow their millionaire bases.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. There's one other topic I do want to touch on real quickly, and we'll share it because this all relates to, and I'm pulling up another chart on this as well, but this relates to the importance of power and energy. So first of all, everything is related to AI these days, not just crypto. A lot of people are very scared now that the world might run out of power. And if that does happen, like for example, does Europe have enough power to run AI data centers? The answer is no. I am pulling up another chart now in a second, but before I pull that up, this is so critical. People like Elon Musk have been talking about this being the bottleneck for AI for years and years, and it's a massive problem, and the world is not ready. But there is one place that is. But before we jump into that, CTO, electricity, a huge outage in Europe. How can this happen? Did somebody plug a toaster into the wrong socket today to kill everything?
I guess they plugged it into the Russian socket, and someone disconnected it a couple of years ago. But someone asked in the chat, we should have energy coin. Yeah, the energy coin is called uranium, guys, because I think that's maybe the only short-term solution, because I think the analysis here is correct. We're going to need more electricity, and it takes time to build it out. And you need to undo some bad decisions. And
and just for perspective, everybody, people think, oh, let's just turn on nuclear reactors. If you get the idea to build a nuclear reactor today in the United States, from the planning and building and implementation, it won't be active for 10 years. So saying today you're going to deploy a lot of nuclear reactors doesn't solve the problem. We could all be gone in 10 years. And this is one thing that people don't realize. Marty, what do you think about power, AI, Bitcoin? And a lot of people are talking today, well, global power outage, Bitcoin's going to go down, or Solana's going to go down, or whatever else. What do you think of all that?
Well, first, people must understand that the power needs to fail on all continents for extended period of time to kill any blockchain. So that's just a joke. Look, I'm from South Africa. Power fails there all the time. We've lived with it. It is an indication of a declining infrastructure. It's not a good thing. It really is a signal of the end of, a sort of cycle. Power is a problem. But we've got to look at where is the cheapest and best power. And USA, like Houston, Texas, has the cheapest power in the world right now, even cheaper than Kazakhstan, which used to be number one, and Russia. Russia and the US have vast amounts of power. So it's going to play benefits.
Not electricity.
Europe is a problem. Europe is a problem, right? They rely on Russian power. They're not self-sufficient. And coming into the changing season when air conditioning is needed, it's going to be the hottest summer of all time. This is when these grids are going to get tested and they're falling over.
Why are they building data centers in Arizona when it's so hot there? That I don't understand.
The beauty of the US is they've started. I mean, there are a lot of solar plants in Texas and here in the US that take advantage of the heat, the sun. So that's a good thing. But I also think that it will force the nuclear agenda. Once again, I think the nuclear agenda, like Elon Musk is a big proponent. I think that we need to get clean nuclear energy manufactured fast. The problem is it takes 10 years, like you said. So the problem might persist for a couple more years. But power is the biggest problem. Absolutely.
So if we look at this chart, okay, and it goes out to 2030, AI will consume all of the power in the United States. That means you can't turn on your light in your home because AI, the demand for power from AI alone in the US and data centers will suck up everything unless something radically changes. And that is horrific. And then it comes to national security. Guess who has all the power? China. Then they'll have all the AI compute, and then they'll be off to the races. Am I reading too much into this or being too alarmist, or is this logical? Either one of you.
Well, I mean, this is the facts. China imports Australian coal and runs coal-burning power plants 100x times more than the US. Reliance on Australia, it made Australia a very rich country. So, China has a massive advantage with Australia being down the road. But I think nuclear will be the answer. And the US under Trump, as one of his campaign slogans, was to turn on the spigots.
There's no time. There's no time for nuclear. It's 2035. Yeah. Yep. But what about Bitcoin mining? If the US is out of power and they need it for AI, we're already seeing like CoreWeave buying up the Bitcoin miners that can't turn a dime mining Bitcoin. So they're turning them to data center power centers because of their gigawatts of power that they have. Will they continue to turn off all the US Bitcoin miners if there is such a demand for AI power? CTO, what do you think of that?
I'm not sure that the AI demand curve is correct. I feel that there could be other solutions to this problem, which doesn't result in exponential like this. But I mean, there will be some of it. So for sure, like solar generation solutions, uranium, some reactors will come online. It will be a combination of solutions. Perhaps there's other generation as well. Like in China, they built this huge dam that kind of slowed down the Earth rotation, I think, by some microsecond. And I mean, there's different ways to do this. And I think some reason will prevail. There's been a lot of very dumb decisions lately, especially in Europe, related to this. And hopefully they backtrack that and the US keep expanding. I think it's going to be fine in the end. But solar energy solutions, which Elon Musk realized, of course, a long time ago, I think will go very well.
In fact, speaking of Elon Musk, XAI just raised another $20 billion. That little thing came out of obscurity less than 2 years ago. Now it's worth over $120 billion. And that's 3x what he paid for X, which is also part of XAI. This guy knows how to make money. Marty, what do you think of XAI and data power? And, humans have a way of solving problems.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
confident
technology in
will
the
solve
works.
the energy.
There's a lot of technology in the works, like these small modular reactors and stuff. But I mean, like you said, it's all supposed to go live in 2050 roughly. But they expect it to contribute up to 10 to 15% of global energy by 2050. So there is new technology. It just needs to be accelerated. And well, like I say, the US is a little bit behind because of all this negative bureaucracy over the last years. We could have been way more ahead if we had retroactively done the same as Europe. I think they dropped the ball. They should have been working on this a long time ago. I think this Russian-Ukraine war, and the longer it goes on, causes the problem to exacerbate. So once again, I just see all of these things as a sort of a nudge to creating this, global peace, trade war negotiations. Get it over with, guys. We've all got the same problem. We've got bigger problems than, and they're all common. Power generation is a universal problem. It's an Earth problem. It's not isolated to any territory. We need to generate more power. If we want to move to robotics, manufacturing, AI, crypto, power is the biggest problem. And I believe that Musk will be brought back in to, once he spends another stint at Tesla. In July, he leaves Doge and goes back to Tesla full time. I think he'll be brought in again. And once again, we have a small advantage with having Musk in the US specifically for generation and storage of power. Remember, battery storage is the bigger issue. We generate power, but we just lose it because it doesn't get used because of the declining system.
The crappy grid.
The area of power is the problem. The infrastructure is really the power. That's what happened in Texas. So there's a lot of... Exactly, go ahead.
A question from Trevor, why the 10-year time frame for nuclear? That's for a big nuclear power plant, but they do have something called an SMR. The Koreans can set up a small nuclear plant or small model reactor, whatever it's called. I can't remember the term, but it takes them 5 years, which is the world record, and the Canadians can do it in 7 years. So there's still a time lag there as well. We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll take a quick question. Any quick final questions? There's a lot of concern about energy today, a lot of concern about Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin security, crypto going down if energy goes down, etc. But final thoughts.
I mean, if energy goes down, you can't go to the ATM. So the fiat money system is way more at risk.
Yeah, good point. Exactly. CTO, final thoughts for the week.
Bitcoin will keep working. I want to end with my part with one chart, if I may, please.
Yep. You go.
It's a reminder of this one. So this is multi-year. Here is 2021, 2022, and this is an inverse head and shoulders. And now after this crash and the recovery that was felt so dramatic, but it's this small part up here, this looks more and more as a confirmed inverse head and shoulder, and this was just a retest. Can you see it here at the top? And then if we draw the target on the log scale, the breakdown, the target is the height of the pattern. And if we draw the same distance up on the log scale, we get 300,000. So I think that's not unrealistic at all. It's absolutely possible, guys. And I think that's the hopium chart of the day from me.
I mean, we've got some news from there's 72 crypto ETFs waiting for approval by Paul Atkins's SEC right now. People aren't even aware. 72 new crypto ETF applications waiting for approval across many different cryptos. We also had massive Solana news with a Janover name change to DeFi Development Corporation, holding up to $1 billion of SOL, doing a strategy along with Sol Strategies, raising another $500 million. So that's some very interesting things to look into, I thought. And then we've got Sui Basecamp coming up in 3 days in Dubai. And Sui's had a great price run as well. I think those are very important things to see as well. So some good news coming from those two networks.
Good stuff. Yeah, the stacking of Solana for Solana treasury companies and Bitcoin treasury companies is insane. Again, I knew Bitcoin treasuries are coming. I didn't expect Solana treasuries to be so powerful. Back on that final point you mentioned, Marty, about the ETFs, give us an approximate timeline when your stomach tells you they will be approved, at least for...
They just did a broad delay across pretty much all of them, 45 45-day delay, which comes up around the middle of May. So it looks like June will be our time frame. It's going to sync up, I think, with the lagging liquidity issue and regulation. I think it's all timed to sort of happen at the same time. I'm looking at the summer, June to July of this year. We're going to see the markup, or the third vector on Bitcoin, and it'll include legal stable coins, regulation, guidelines, following liquidity. I think gold will correct more. I think gold's not finished correcting, and I think we'll see Bitcoin catch up to gold again. June, July. Let's just remember that, June or July.
And just some news there.
As far as now goes, everybody, the Wyckoff says we should consolidate now, probably through to May. We'll consolidate between $92 and $95, $96,000. Expect it to go up and down in that range. Traders, it's your dream. Long the bottom, short the top. And the markup should come around the beginning of May.
Yeah, last week we hit 95K. I did a survey on Twitter. Yeah, what will we hit next? 100K or 90K? And the results were 67% said 100K first. Thoughts on that, Marty? I just use the facts. The liquidation levels on Binance say 99,000 is the top of the range. So I think the first hit 97, probably pull down one more time. We might go down and touch 92 before 97. They're going to try and scare the market one more time, but I think 99 is the next major target. And then sort of in the June, July area, I think we go to all-time high. Exactly. And Crypto Gamer just broke that Arizona will be the first for an SBR, but I don't know how much money they have. They're not as big as Texas, are they?
This is a good question here. Do we sell in May and go away?
I know.
Crypto Cruiser. I don't think we do that anymore. I think they've got us by the balls. We don't do that. Do not do that.
Yeah, and Crypto Cruiser, that sell in May, go away. Sometimes the markets rally up until the beginning of August. So you could lose June and July. So be very careful of that old adage. It sometimes works, but you also have to look at where the market is. If the market rallies really hard to the end of April, really hard, like an explosive move upwards, massive mean reversion is expected, and then you sell in May and go away. But that's not happening. The markets are in the toilet. Therefore, you do not sell in May and go away. Plus, watch the Treasuries. The amount that they're buying is insane. And CEP is coming, aka 21. Thank you so much, guys. Sorry, Mando couldn't be here today due to some power stuff. I want to thank everybody in the audience today for being very cool and the wonderful moderators. There's no toxicity today, which is wonderful.
Yeah, good week.
So, yeah, thank you all for coming. CTO, appreciate all of your insights, and Marty as well. Let's keep doing this. Let's turn up. Turning up is half the battle, ladies and gentlemen, and we will turn up every Monday.
Thank you,
this
everyone.
week I've got John Deaton. If anybody wants to talk to and hear John Deaton, remember he ran up against Elizabeth Warren. So I'm going to grill him on some very tricky questions. Got him this week on the Spaces, as well as this new company, this new DeFi development corp. So
and I donated to him, by the way, which is kind of funny.
I'll let him know. I'll let him know that you said what's going on.
And I was very sad he lost. Very sad he lost. But it shows you the entrenched nature of crypto. And hopefully he'll run again sometime soon. Thank you all for coming. Don't forget links below for Marty and CTO. And you're probably watching on their channels anyway, so you know us all. But make sure you follow these legends. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Ciao.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon. Hopefully the power comes on, Mando. We feel for you. Yeah. As a South African, this is normal.
Exactly. You got your scars. Take care, buddy. Bye.